Have you ever struggled with a chronic disease and felt like you weren't getting the support you needed? If so, you are not alone. Eva Galant certainly knows how it feels. After struggling for 6 years with Hashimoto's disease and feeling like there wasn't enough help available, Eva decided to take matters into her own hands. She created Hashiona, an innovative FemTech startup that provides personalized nutrition plans to help those with Hashimoto's disease feel better and live their best lives. The goal is to help another 480 million diagnosed worldwide. And that's not all. I'm really excited to have Eva as a guest, especially as we are celebrating the International Women's Month. Eva is a serial entrepreneur with a strong technical and managerial background with 10 years of international experience in the technology and startup sector. She has been successful in strategy, marketing, and implementation, product innovation, and driving new businesses, opportunities, and solutions. You are in for a treat. Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show. I'm Naomi Makangu from Athena Leaders. As a tech consultant and startup advisor, I will answer live the burning question that you have on your journey to Series A+. Subscribe and tune in every week for top tips to meet amazing guests, startup founders, investors, and more. More importantly, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. To kick off this series, because we have devoted the entire month of March to find very exciting and amazing women that are doing an incredible work, whether we are looking at FemTech and Health Tech, and I think, Eva, you are one of them. So for those who've never had the pleasure to meet you and to find out so much about you, because I've been reading about you for the last week also, could you please introduce yourself?
Hey Nelly, hey everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a really big pleasure. So yes, let me introduce myself. As you already mentioned, my name is Eva Galant and I'm a co-founder and CEO of Hashiona. Hashiona is the platform helping Hashimoto and hypothyroidism patients getting into clinical remission and decreasing the number of antibodies by changing their lifestyle. And in terms of my background and my career, so basically I study IT, so technology was always the field that I was involved in. On the beginning of my career, for a couple of years, I worked as a product manager, product owner for software houses and seed startups. And then very quickly later on during my career, I moved more onto the business side. So I was the person who was translating the language of technology to the language of business and vice versa. And basically, I work in a couple of different places. I hope we had the chance to discuss this today on a couple of different variety of position. I'm a typical generalist before setting up Hashiona. I also have 2 other startups before, so Hashiona is not my first attempt, let's say, in the startup ecosystem. As you mentioned as well, I had a pleasure and a chance to work in a couple of different countries around the world, basically. And then for a couple of years, I worked as well as a seed startup consultant. So I work very closely with startup founders, helping them to fix the problems that they were facing at the time. That could include anything from product management, from operation, from business development, from sales, from fundraising, and so on. So basically, in all of this variety position I had in completely different industry, basically anything from fashion tech, going through robotic process automation, fintech, medtech, and so on. I collect a variety of skills that are really today helping me to kick off the startup, and I run my own thing.
That's an incredible journey. And again, we're going to touch onto the subject of being a generalist versus a specialist, as this is something that people talk a lot, and that also requires some level of confidence that I think women needs to really embrace more and jump into that. But as you said, with the variety of your careers, portfolio careers, it's kind of like it's really positioned you in the perfect place to start Hashiona, because you are fusing not just tech startup, as most people know about it, but there's also a lot of aspect of health tech, and that brings on a different perspective. Do you want to share with us a bit about the journey when you decided there's a problem here and we really want to go and solve it.
Definitely. So basically, it's not only, but we'll talk about this a little bit more. My main purpose to set up Hashiona was my own, obviously to help people who struggle with this disease, but that started with my own personal story. So basically, 8-9 years ago, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto and hypothyroidism. Today I know I was born with this disease, but for many years I was looking like what's actually wrong with my body, with myself, because my body didn't really react for many stuff like the other people I know. I was very often very tired. I needed like napping during the day. My sleeping needs were completely different. I needed like require more sleep. I was freezing all the time, even when everyone around were okay and even sometimes hot. So there was a lot of symptoms that basically I noticed in my life. But that was one moment which I really remember, which basically my Hashimoto hit me toughly, I would say. So when I was 25, I decided to move. I'm originally Polish, so I came from Poland. I grew up there and I studied there as well. And at the age of 25, after selling my another small startup, I decided to move to London. And basically moving to different country as a first time, with obviously changing the environment, your career, working in different language and so on, is a lot for a young person, especially when you're doing this for the first time. So I had a lot of stress. And stress is one of the factors that is basically triggering the autoimmune disorders in our body. So in my case, it happened. And from being a very active person during my young professional years in Poland, when I was like working full time, having some on-site gigs, running a non-profit organization, then I moved to London and I noticed that basically I need like 12-13 hours of sleep. Then I have no energy for the whole day. Even after such a long sleep, I felt exhausted. I felt tired all the time. I was confused. My brain fog was really huge at this point, which is, you know, like when I have the engineering background, and then I realized at some point that even like kind of, you know, very simple math equation when just making me confused, or even like the daily activities during the day, like like you're taking a shower, you use like the shampoo, you use a conditioner and stuff like that. Those even things make me confused. So I knew, okay, this is something really wrong going on with me. I probably have to seek a professional doctor opinion and a visit on it. And I was looking for some time. Because the symptoms are so generic, it's very hard to basically put the right diagnosis. And we see that now as well in our platform. A lot of people are misdiagnosed. And the journey from the symptoms popping up to the moment when you get diagnosed are usually taking around 8 years, according to the data. So yeah, so I then finally got the diagnosis, which was very relieving, because at least I knew what's my enemy and what I'm going to fight with. And then really I took the chance to fight with it. Obviously I got the medicine, I got the levothyroxine, which is most of the patients taking, and then I tried to experiment what else can help me, because the levothyroxine didn't really work as it's supposed to, which will basically mean it didn't release all of my symptoms. Don't take me wrong, levothyroxine is super important, and all the patients have to take it for the rest of their life in most cases. But you also have to change your lifestyle in terms to feel good and release the symptoms. And yeah, long story short, I was okay for many years. But then working for another big American startup on the hyper growth path, a little bit strained my body. So I did everything what I should in terms of my lifestyle. There was a lot of traveling, a lot of jet lag, a lot of eating out, a lot of working as well, a lot of stress and responsibility that was placed on me. And that was completely okay. But one day working in Australia, I wake up and I knew something is wrong. I had some symptoms for a couple of weeks already. So I figure I have to probably check my blood test. And once they have been done and I received the result, they were obviously horrible. So I noticed that, okay, that's the moment when I have to probably change something in my life, because maybe my ambition is huge, but my body's not coping with it. So I will require a change of the lifestyle. And then I also knew that I will have to put my body into remission once again, which is a process which is not going on to be like, overnight process. It takes months. It takes usually around 6 months, depends on the patient, maybe everything from 3 to 8 months, but it's taking a time. And I decided, okay, if I have to go through this process once again, at the same time, I can also structure that and potentially make it available for the millions of other patients around the world who are struggling with this disease on a daily basis. So that's what I did. Like I quit my position. My company was going for restructurization at the time anyway. So I took the chance and then set up Hashiona right away after leaving WeWork. And since that is almost like 3 years journey now.
Well, that's a hell of a journey. And as you were talking, I kind of remind me of one of my really close friends. She has a similar disease, definitely affects her thyroids and also the growth glands. I never remember the right name, but I'm never going to try to say it. But one of the things that she noticed, in addition to all of the medication, the biggest change for her was she did a lot of research on her own to understand the changes in health, in her lifestyle, whether it's food, exercise, that could help her continue to enjoy the same quality of life, like traveling, and also how to manage work, because she was still very efficient. She still is, but there are days where her body might not react the way she expects to. And having employers that were understanding made a huge difference. So yes, I mean, on behalf of her and all of my other friends that have similar diseases, we definitely thank you, because one of the things that she's told me repeatedly was that she felt that there's a bit of a gap once you leave the clinical aspect of that. The how do I survive and how do I understand myself? There's not a lot of things. So how does Hashiona help people really understand? Because you mentioned a bit about the nutrition. Why is that important, and how does it help patients to be able to really live their lives to the full and manage the condition better?
I'm super glad that you raised it up, because your friend experience is not something unusual. So what is here to understand, first of all, that if you have autoimmune disorder, that will require you always to combine the pharmacology treatment and the lifestyle changes. That's basically how that works, because if you have autoimmune disorder, your body is producing kind of antibodies which are attacking some of your organs. You have to put the inflammation down to feel better. Exactly the same way like people think about diabetics, right? Like diabetics patients have to connect the pharmacology treatment and also a very right diet for them and be active in terms of the physical activities. In Hashimoto, this is a little bit more complicated, because yes, diet is your key thing and you have to really take care about it. It have to be clean food. Basically, in the Hashiona, we recommend patients to going for the diet which is gluten-free, dairy-free, which is avoiding soya. It is anti-inflammatory, avoiding sugar, any processed food, transfer fat, and so on and so on. That is your basic, but there is more things on top of it. Like, for example, a lot of people are not aware that not all of the physical activity are good for you if you have Hashimoto. So, for example, you shouldn't really strain your body too much. So if you're starting your journey with physical activity, you shouldn't really start with stuff like cardio or HIIT or CrossFit, because that may even do more damage for you than the better things. So start with something which is like more calm, but be regular. Like, take care about the frequency of your activities. So yoga is good, Pilates is good, gym is good, and there's a couple of other things that you really have to adjust. And then As long as your body will adapt to more physical activity, then you can increase the amount of your physical activity, and then as well perhaps change even the discipline. Now there's more things. So stress, for example, as I mentioned previously, huge factor for autoimmune disorder, and there is a lot that people forget and how they underestimate stress. Stress is basically mean that your body is going through with a higher cortisol, and that's a big problem. And there are some even early stage research that may that show that basically even cortisol may affect absorption of levothyroxine, but yeah, in general, stress is not good for you. Now, there is another thing, which is your sleeping hygiene, right? Again, people very often don't realize that behind of this all is a medical process. Basically, if you don't sleep enough time, and many Hashimoto and autoimmune patients require 8 to even 9 hours of sleep every single day. And if you don't sleep at night, that's also super important, then basically you're affecting your pituitary, the small organ here. And pituitary is responsible for production of thyroid hormones. It's all connected, guys. So we cannot only focus on one thing, because if you don't take care holistically about yourself, then basically you will never feel okay. And that's the same with like nutrition deficit or taking care about others organs. Like, again, you may be on like the best organic diet, very clean and so on, but if your microbiome in your gut are not in a good shape, nothing of this valuable nutrition will be basically absorbed. Now, coming to Hashiona, what Hashiona is offering users, so you basically sign up on the platform. We ask you a couple of questions about your current lifestyle, your current diet, your preferences. We also ask about your medical history and so on. And based on all of this information, our algorithm is preparing you very customized, individual meal plan that you can follow. You can take a picture in it. You can switch the meals whenever you like. We give you all the advices, recipe and nutrition calories. So you can track that in the application. It will also give you access to our step-by-step to remission program, which is basically program that include all the aspects I mentioned before, and was created by analyzing 1,200 medical papers from the PubMed, and obviously with the clinicians' input. So Hashiona in general is helping you to adjust your whole life for the disease and help you to keep those habits in the very productive, efficient, and easy way to your daily routine, basically. Because we know that, I mean, like, living in the regime is not easy. And it's not at all. Yeah, you need the help to it. You need the professional information, which are based by science and clinicians. And I know that myself, like any single change in our life require us so much consistency, require us so much motivation and so on. That's why Hashiona is kind of like support on it to help you with it.
It's really like the companion that when you speak to your doctor, they should really be giving it to you and say, okay, this is all the medication you need to take, but please take this as well as you are transitioning, and just to help you support yourself. And I'm really happy that you're working on this, because I think that this is something that is missing. And as I mentioned, my friend, I've heard so many stories where she joins a lot of different groups online, and she was actually sharing her stories to help other people. And as you said, something like exercising, everybody says, yes, go and exercise more. But if you don't understand your condition, you could actually be doing more harm. And that happened a lot in the forum and some of the things that she was talking about. So yes, I definitely agree with really thank about what you're doing, because I think this is something that is really missing when we look at the holistic aspects of health, which is more than just here's your medication. Having said that, I'm also interested to see, from the health tech perspective, we know that there are many medical devices out there, and that sometimes doctors, some of them, they love to to go with innovation and new ideas, and others are a bit more reluctant, thinking, is this going to work? Should we really prescribe that or help our patients with that? What have you seen, and how did you counteract any kind of pushback on what you're currently doing with Hashiona?
That's a very good topic to mention. Is it actually true that a lot of doctors can be like tech skeptics, and they are like not really believing in it? And it's good that you mentioned that, because when we were talking before that with autoimmune, you always have to connect the pharmacology plus the lifestyle. So we talk with the doctors and try to make them aware that our solution or any digital therapeutic solution on the market are not there to replace the drug or not there to replace the doctors itself. They are here to be enhancements. So my dream is that we will have a future whenever you have a chronic or autoimmune disorder and you will go to your doctor, you will get 2 prescriptions. One is for your drug or medicine or whatever is required you, and the second is for application like Hashiona to help you adjust and understand your body, what your body needs basically. And your body, and again, like when you mention your friends, sometimes it's feeling like very lonely in the journey, and she's like, supporting other people in this community group and so on. We see that a lot. Basically, it is like kind of, you even can have like the depression, which is caused by hormonal imbalance. So we see that a lot, that the patients with autoimmune disorder, which is invisible, they feel lonely. They feel like not understood by family and friends. Very similar as well experience those who have diagnosed with depression. But coming back to the doctor perspective and the dream to have this prescribed, so Hashiona is also going into the path of digital therapeutics. We are currently running patient trials, supervising 100 Hashimoto patients to prove that and have a clinical validation that our dietary approach is basically improving the quality of life, improving the biomarkers in terms of thyroid profile, like the TSH, T3, T4, but also we're trying to prove that it's also decreasing the number of antibodies in the blood. So we really are focusing on the science and everything which was scientifically verified. And our dream is that then shortly in the nearest future, Hashiona can be prescribed by doctors as well. Even those who are a little bit skeptic about the, all technology, novel solution popping up on the market. I think there is a variety of solutions for different kind of disease, doing similar stuff to Hashiona, and I'm really love observing the market, and I keep my fingers crossed for all the founders out there trying to help patients on a daily basis. Very often based on their own or their own family experience as well.
Absolutely. And even for those who might not have a chronic disease, I still believe that there is a gap somewhere. And that's an experiment that I've been doing on myself, just because, every year I take on a personal experiment to improve myself holistically. So what is the personal development and other things. And one of my biggest issues is the lack of sleep. I've got chronic insomnia and I've had that all my life. But of course, running my business and increased sleep means increased stress means that I sleep less and less. And I started wondering, okay, is that a good thing to really go to the gym like 5 times a week, which is great, but you're not getting enough sleep to repair your body? And I started doing a lot of reading around that, around food, for example. And it's mind-blowing how people say, go and eat healthily. But you Google eat healthy. They say, okay, as a CrossFitter, you need to do this diet. And then some of them says, oh, the diet is really bad, do this one. And you start eating certain things, and they tell you, oh, by the way, dessert is not good for you, even if it's fruits, because of this mineral and that mineral. And I'm like, oh my Lord,
Yeah,
what do I listen to?
Very confusing.
Exactly.
And very overwhelming. I had exactly the same experience, and I think everyone who suffer with any chronic disorder, as yourself, know this. Like when you start Googling things, and there's like so many contradict each other information on a daily basis. That's why when we were creating Hashiona, I was like, okay, no, we only focus on the information that we can support by medical science that is found in the PubMed. PubMed is like kind of a big platform where all the research around the world is published. It's verified by other doctors, by other scientists, and so on. So we're only focusing on that because, as you said, I know the feeling is very confusing, especially with Hashimoto. Like even sometimes things that you may think they are healthy, they're not healthy for you because of many stuff, and there's like so many contradicting information. As you mentioned with this gym, this is like one of my favorite example actually. People think, okay, how sport can harm me, right? Like I should go more and more and more. But that's the case. If you go to your gym and train your body for like 5 times per week, for example, right? And you don't have enough sleep, so your body regenerate, that's completely not good. You will only put your body into so-called physical stress. And what's happening with the physical stress is, as again, cortisol is basically, especially in the very beginning of journey, when you got your medication, you just after diagnosis, you got your medication, and the doctors are trying to adjust the dose of medication to your body, which they're trying, sometimes it takes even up to half of the year or 12 months and so on. So now, if you strain your body by physical activities too much, it means your body needs more hormone, which means they need even more than you are taking, right? So then your doctor again adjusting it for you and adjusting, and you will never find the perfect dose if you will be doing that. So I always say, and we always recommend that in the platform, like take it easy. Sometimes a small change may be much better than doing 30 in the same time and then quitting after 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Because that's now human nature, right? We also like pleasure and stuff. So we usually say, start with a yoga, but do it regularly. Do it twice a week. And then you can adjust if you feel like you can already.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I'm really keen to look at as well before we run out of time is your own entrepreneurial journey. I mean, I spent a lot of time researching, and I've seen a lot of the things that you started. On one hand, it was the experience being a co-founder or founder at various different startups. And on the other hand, it was pretty much your journey working with other startups to help them grow, to help them achieve certain goals. And I think it's really exciting. Now, as we're going back in the theme with International Women's Day, one of the reasons why I want to talk about your journey, especially when you founded a startup, is because on the 8th of March, I'm actually talking about risk-taking and the impact of risk-taking, why it should be embraced a lot more for women. But at the same time, the stakes can be higher for women as well when we start looking at career and risk. There are windows for everything. Windows on when you can have kids, otherwise it becomes more complicated. Windows for so many different things that affect some people who might want to take risks. But of course, your journey has always been about jumping in there, taking the opportunity and really pushing yourself. And I really wanted to use that as part of this episode to really help and encourage other women to do the same. So we're going to look at some of the startup that you work through very quickly to kind of summarize, what you are doing and what happened at the end, and also how you got the energy and why you continued going with another startup. Don't worry, I will be asking those questions in stages, but I just wanted to frame that to give you an idea of the little segment that or little game we're going to play with. So the first one, unless I've got it wrong, obviously in my research, the first one was eOffer Social, which was a very cool idea. And do you want to tell us a little bit about what it was that you were trying to solve?
Yes, I'm glad we're talking about this. There's a lot of lesson learned, and there's a lot of both successful and fail experience I had. But each of these experience is a lesson which taught me something. Now, starting with the eOffer Social, that was definitely a first startup I was part of. It wasn't set up directly for me. I was invited after working as an employee for this company. I received equity, which was a 10% of the equity. I was a very young person at that time, and I was super excited because I never had a company before. And after working for a year together, the other founders decided to bring me on the board and give me the chance. So I took it, obviously. And eOffer Social was a platform to generate kind of engine for boosting the loyalty of customer in the real world. So if you remember, like they weren't really first day of Facebook, but it was very very beginning when there were the fan pages and people were trying to offering different kind of coupons and basically redirect the traffic from their fan page to a real shops, places, platforms, whatever we're doing. So we created an engine that was helping them to create kind of personalized offering for them, sending out those vouchers, sending out a different promotion and stuff. Very nice experience. We done this company for 2.5 years, but at the end of the day, we basically were have to shut down the company due to lack of the funding. So that was one of the first like financial attempts. We decided that the company would not exist anymore because we couldn't get so many clients to be profitable on time.
Oh, brilliant. And again, I love what you've said, when you've mentioned that everything that, even through the failure, that was a learning for you, which I think is the right way the only way to frame this, really. So what was the biggest learning that you've got when you finish with your experience at EOFA?
Yeah, every single experience, guys, is always a lesson. In EOFA, let me think. Well, I think it has this position and this experience have a really special place in my heart because this is how my career really started. So this is how I was introduced to both entrepreneurship and the startup ecosystem. I was a time when basically the startup ecosystem, it was 2010, 2011, the startup ecosystem was just creating themselves in Poland. There was first accelerator. Basically, we participated in the first Polish accelerator of startup. Everyone was like so hyped about Silicon Valley and the legend of the first big startups. Everyone wanted to build the first Facebook and so on. So that's all really showed me being basically surrounded by those super innovative, super smart people, super successful in many cases, show me that basically, first of all, everyone can set up a company into the technology space. If you have a good idea, if you know how to bring the value for the users, you should try. You should try. There are people out there in this space that are going to help you, and they will going to do it for free. They don't really need. This is how the technology space works. Everyone is super friendly. People give you the time. People give you the advice. They will help you kick off the idea that you have. So that was the feeling. Like even if the startup failed, I was like, I have something unique. Now I understand how the world works in terms of like building the startup, fundraising, and so on and so on. So that's definitely something that will stay for me and basically shape my whole career.
That's impressive. I say that a lot, that there is no replacement for going in and doing it yourself. Of course, this is not about me. So if anyone wants to know about my story, invite me to your podcast, because I also have a bit of a portfolio career. And one thing I learned personally was that you can read as many books as possible. That helps. That I'm not even going to discount that. The networking, speaking to people, reading helps you have the base. But it's really by going in and doing things yourself that you actually get to a certain point and understanding that's much deeper. And for people who are wondering, should I do an MBA or should I, maybe it's too expensive to do an MBA. Well, find the startups and do what Eva and I did, jump in and do in there. Because when you come out of it, regardless of how people define success, you never lose because you are always a step ahead of where you were before.
I'm glad you said that, Nelly. Before setting up my first own startup that was set up by myself, it's called The Close. I read the book Lean Startup. Probably most of you already know that. Probably 3 times. So I knew how the things should be done and what to expect. And guess what? once
It's
I
not that
review,
way.
yeah, once I review my startup, when we basically were closing that in terms of the close, it's turned out that I did all the most common questions. Because guys, this is completely different when you run the startup and when you think a startup. Even when you are like working as a contractor or an advisor or whatever, that's still different. Like imagine when you are like young person, 16, 18, whatever, and you starting to do your driving license. Do you know like how is the feeling when you drive and the person who is not having a driving license sitting next to you and saying, "Oh, how did you miss that? How do you could miss the sign on the road? We should turn here once you are in a new place or on vacation, whatever." That's the case. Like if you are a funder, your spectrum of vision is much broader. You have to basically take into consideration everything. You know, if there is someone going there, if there is a dog on the street, if there is someone like, you know, the cyclist, blah, 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 all the things together. Once the person next to you can only focus on one thing, and like, how could you miss that? So yeah, that's the thing. Nothing
Definitely.
your practice.
And now we're talking about the clothes. Now, that one, I wish was still around. I absolutely love this idea because I travel a lot for work. I live in two different countries. So sometimes I'm in Spain, sometimes I'm in the UK. And people underestimate, the level of frustration you have. You only have a limited amount you want to put in your suitcase. If you have more conferences or more events to speak at, you need more clothes. If you have a lot of networking events, you need more clothes than when you don't. And small things as, oh, I need my trainers to go to the gym and things like that. For me, the ability of going somewhere, because I'm not attached to clothes. Clothes is not a big thing for me. The ability to go and just rent something that I need for the moment would have completely changed my life. So can you tell us a bit more about, what you're doing in that space of renting clothes, which, by the way, a lot of people are even talking about it now. So I'm interested to see how do you get into this, and then of course how do you get out of it as well.
Yeah, I really regret the one is not around as well. I was a big failure basically, but I was really loving the idea. So the clothes was basically subscription-based platform for women to rent completely stylized outfits for themselves. And I created this startup from my own need as well. So as a being engineer and kind of the person who was always more on like to male side, playing football as a kid and stuff and so on. I never really feel, but for a long time, I never really feel like comfortable with my fashion choices. I feel like I really missing out a lot of those like very girly, very female perspective. And then when I started to work as a contractor and being in the business, I figured that this may be important actually, but I still couldn't do that, and I didn't know how to how to get the right outfit to my body, to the occasion. I hate shopping even until now. So that was very tough for me. I was like kind of engineer who could work in the sneakers and the t-shirt for many weeks, and that wasn't a problem for me. So I created a startup trying to solve my own problem, and then I failed. I mean, we built a platform, we prepared all the technology, we bought the first stock as well, we had the first paying customers, but this kind of model is very hard to scale because you need to have a lot of capital upfront to buy a stock, which then is relocating between different users and the amortization that you have to calculate as well, and then to buy more and more those clothes so that you can circulate that between the users with different sizes of the body as well, and so on and so on. So that require really big capital of the front, and I think it wasn't really also right moment, if you know what I mean, on the market.
Yes.
Right now, something like this could be much more popular because we are all now about the second houses, and like people are really taking care about the ecology right now. They look for good fabrics, they look for reusing stuff and so on. That couple of years ago, it wasn't that really popular. It was just the beginning, I think, of it. So
Yeah.
we tried, we did everything we could, but at the end of the day, it also was like, to be honest, it made me realize it was lack of my business preparation for it in terms of as being a founder, as being confident, fundraising, and so on. That wasn't easy. It taught me a lot. I had to talk to investor because there is a specific way. You need to know how to do this, how to present your idea, how to show the benefits, how to show the return of investment, and so on. I wasn't ready that time yet with this. We were ready with the product, we were ready with the service, we were ready with everything else, but we weren't ready for the investor.
Yeah, and again, it shows your growth and your journey throughout all of the startup you've created. And I strongly agree with you that this is definitely something that as well could have been just a bit ahead of its time, because now there's so many people that talks about it. I work at a place where they even have events where people come and swap items of clothing. So there's still something in there. And
They have
definitely agree with
platforms. Yeah, when you can, maybe the platform I already have a different model that I wanted, because I wanted this like on permanent basis, so I don't need to have like even any clothes at home and don't worry about that.
Yes.
But they have platform definitely when you can occasionally rent stuff, and they're also fantastic. So.
Yeah, definitely. I might even keep that for myself. If I hear someone's working on something similar, I'll definitely send them your way. And again, we do share this dislike of shopping. I cannot last more than 30 minutes in one shop. So imagine going with my mom that can happily stay in one shop for an hour and a half. So
That's
what I've done is just
I
I've literally outsourced. So go ahead.
I usually do shopping once per maybe half of the year. And I just go there, I spend a couple hours, I buy everything what I need, and I don't want to come back for another 6 months or whatever time it is. So I understand.
Yeah.
But guys, what I would also would like to mention is, because I mentioned that setting up the clothes, I wasn't really prepared for fundraising and stuff. And I have an interesting lesson here I think I should learn. Because between the first startup, which is e-offer, and the clothes that we were talking right now, I also have a different company called Elite Card, which was basically a loyalty card for the physical businesses to offer in one single card a lot of discounts for the users. That were the time when Groupon was super popular as well. So it was working a little bit like a Groupon, but more like you pay for like physical card, and the card it will giving you access to discount for 400 different providers in my local city. So what now was the difference? The Elite card was built by bootstrapping, which means we spend our own money as founders. We built the program. We got 3,000 or 4,000 paid customers. We got the brand awareness in our local city. So we could actually scale that, but so we didn't need really an investor. The product was working on themselves, was making money, it was good. But I think that in this company there was a different problem. So all of us as a founders, we had a full-time job, and the company was only like on site generating us kind of like passive income. But none of us really loved the product so much that we wanted to quit our jobs and do it full time. So that was the problem. And then when I decided to move to London, and a friend of mine, my co-founder, decided to move to Norway to follow his wife's dream, then we decided to sell the company. But it's shame, from time perspective, I think it's shame. We could make it much bigger. We could scale that, but at that moment, that wasn't our kind of priority in terms of like in line with our goals. So first lesson here, remember, you have to always be like fully dedicated. Second of thing, even if you have already some successes, let's say, don't forget that it doesn't mean that your next business will be successful. Just be humble, because that's what I felt like. I felt, okay, if one of my business was already okay and it was generating money and it was successful, then the second one, which was like the clothes, should be as well, right? No, it wasn't. So that was as well like kind of a learning for me. Be humble, because new product, new market, new things. There is so many factors that affect if you are successful or not. And sometimes there's like your preparation, your knowledge, everything you can do. Sometimes of the co-founders you will choose to be your partners, and sometimes it's just a little bit of lack of just the missing luck to be on the right moment, on the right time with your product on the market. So yeah, that's another lesson I think I got.
But of course, if you were not really passionate about these ideas you are doing on the side, when it came to Elite Card, was that as part of trying out a new idea? What really got you and the team committed to really go along the way? I mean, you don't just wake up and have 400 providers, on the platform. It's a lot of work that went into that, but it was another passion. So how did you motivate yourself to really keep going? Because as you said as well, you had another job on the side. So it's very interesting how you managed to have the discipline to actually push to something that turned into an exit by selling the company on so that you can move on to something else. Was at the same time there was something that wasn't really aligned when it comes to passion?
Yeah, I think it's all about the passion at the end of the day. Like if you don't really feel the product and don't feel the mission and don't have the passion for like 100, I don't know, maybe even more, 120%, then you will never keep yourself motivated. You will never have this feeling like waking up like, okay, maybe today will be busy, maybe I will work hard, but at the end of the day, there is a word, I know why I'm doing this, I love doing it. You know what I mean? Like you have to love doing it. You have to be all in for that. And in Elite Card, that was somewhere missing. Obviously, on the very beginning, we had this power, we have this motivation. We were working super hard, those three of us. All of us were a different kind of responsibility and field doing it. And we were happy seeing it growing and being profitable and so on. But then at some point, like when we decided both of us move abroad and like kind of develop the career, which was like the daily career, nobody of us wanted to like really focus and take this step to quit the job, which I think from the timer's perspective was basically the motivated by the lack of passion at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it is. But in terms of Hashiona, like I think in terms of motivation in general, I mean, everyone have to find that in ourselves, and that's not. There is no golden rule for it. People, we are all different. Everyone have a different motivation. Some people are doing startup because they want to get wealthy. Some people are doing startup because they love building stuff from scratch and seeing them, being up and running. Some people have different kind of motivation. Like for me, is the impact that we can do for the Hashimoto patients, because I have seen them for 9 years, having a lot of personal tragedy, being this, like, as you say, forums, community, and so on. I saw people losing job twice, 3 times. I saw women going through very painful divorces. Some people were very lonely. I just wanted to help because I felt like, okay, if I know how to help myself, I felt like I was privileged because when I was diagnosed, I was in London, I was working as a contractor. I had both the resources, the time and the capital to work on myself, to figure out what's working for my body, to fix myself, as I tend to say. So I wanted to make it available for other people who, didn't have this kind of good situation, that they can not working for 8 months just to focusing on their health, let's say, right? People have jobs, people have mortgages to pay, people have kids. I actually don't have it. So, you know what I mean? Like for me, it was a little bit easier to do it. So I want to make it like pay back to the community of Hashimoto patients and kind of help them. But yeah, everyone has a different motivation. You have to find your motivation in yourself to run this product. If you don't have this motivation, if you kind of like have a doubt, maybe that's not this idea, right? Maybe that's not the topic you want to develop. But also be aware that even if you are 100% all in, there are also a moment when I'm waking up and I have a doubt, like, Is it
Of
good
course,
I'm doing
yeah.
it? Is it good? Maybe I shouldn't. Like, you have to be prepared. That kind of like running a startup is like emotional roller coaster. As it's like
Mm.
you have a lot of this downs moment, you have the up moment and down, and it's like it's never ending story. But if you feel deeply in your heart that this is it and you have to doing it, you should go by your head, follow it, and just doing it. Because, it's not always about the award. Especially in the very beginning when you're funded, there's no awards. There's only like 100-hour weeks of working.
Yes, exactly.
You have some sparkling moment, and nice. You can be a guest in a very nice podcast, right? But on the daily basis, that's a lot of tough work.
There's a lot of grind that people don't see, and I'm actually glad you really went into this and really opened. You're really open about this idea of motivation and what it meant for you and the transition to Hashiona. Because one of the final questions I wanted to talk about was especially for women that are thinking, should I get into this idea of entrepreneurship? Should I, I'm a generalist. That was the value in that in a world where when you look at technology, they're always asking for engineers. We want engineers here and there. And they don't really call out for the other skill sets that we both know that are still needed, especially as a generalist, the ability to just jump in, very high level view, to jump into a company and help them to move forward is something that, again, won't make the splash in the newspapers in terms of skills needed, but it is still very needed. And I feel like, this is a really strong message for women out there that wants to either get into a career in tech, because I believe that, yes, there's these challenges, yes, there's a learning curve that will happen anywhere, it's not just in tech, but the passion and the motivation, as Eva, you nicely put it, and again, we can feel that through your journey, will be something that will really get you there. So I really wanted to highlight that point. And again, say thank you for being such a wonderful guest to help us kick out very strongly the International Women's Month. And as the last question before we go, if there's anyone out have heard about your story, whether they want to follow you because you're obviously amazing, and also want to learn from you and find out more about what you do at Hashiona, how can I find out more about you?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Nelly, for mentioning this. Guys, you can reach out to me looking for me at all social media platform. Just type Eva Galant and you will find me on LinkedIn. You can reach me out through the email at eva@hashiona.com. Obviously, I recommend to follow all of our Hashiona social media profiles. And hope me to hear back from you. That would be fantastic. There was something I just missed my thought, but there was something Nelly that you said in your last sentence that actually hit me a little bit. Gosh, I'm not sure if I will remind myself now, but I just wanted to add something on it.
Was that about the passion, the motivation?
No, that wasn't that. I don't know. I forgot because there's like so many topics we pick out. But about the generalists, I know that already. Okay,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So cool that you said that. You know why? Because I think that may be impactful for other people as well. So, guys, for myself, for many years, I literally felt that being a generalist is not good. I was ashamed of it, and I was a little bit having it was my big complex. And the reason behind of it is because I felt like I'm interested in everything. So I want to do everything. Whatever you just threw at me, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want to try this, and different industry and so on. And I thought it's like people are looking at it, it is not professional. It is like it's basically bad for both your career and your reputation, because you looks like you're jumping all the time, right? Like you don't spend a lot of place on something or attention on doing things and so on. For me, I knew by heart that I'm actually entrepreneur since I was born. I love it. But also, the other thing what I loved is basically learning about different stuff, learning about different industries. If you look at my CV, you can see I was working as a marketing person, I was working as a salesperson, I was working as a product owner, project manager, I was working and as a as a support for HR team, helping to recruit high technical people and so on. And I knew that for me is basically collecting kind of bricks to then build my own home, my own company.
Yes.
Right? So that was for me, but a lot of people didn't understand that. And that actually will bring me to work as a contractor. Then I figure out, contracting is for me, because contracts are usually takes anything from 3 to 8 months, which means you can change a lot of those, and you're just giving a different industry, which you mean you can learn about. So it keep me kind of, not getting bored all the time with the job I'm doing, and like constantly learning. And so I wanted to say, for all of you who may think that generalize is not okay, it is completely okay. And to be honest, if you run the startup, that's even better. To be honest, in the very beginning, you look for people who are generalized. You look for people who have a lot of skills, who can wear a lot of hats and be kind of like jaws of all trades, because you are lacking the resources, lack of the time. So you look for people who are flexible. Yes, you have to have engineers. Don't take me wrong. You have to have your specialists, depends on the field as well. But, someone will have to crack on the strategy, on the vision, on the sailing and preparing the deck, and then maybe do your own social media posts if needed,
building partnerships with other people.
Yeah, exactly. And you will also have to hire people and and fire sometimes as well, unfortunately, but that's a part of the job. You have to do like a lot of things, especially in the beginning, right? If you have 50 people and over in your team, then you can have specialists who are doing the best what they are trained for. But it is okay, and it's even helping you to be entrepreneur on these early days when you are generalized. So no complex about that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm touching my heart because I would say that you are definitely my soul sister out there, and one day we have to meet, because there's just so many similarities. And as you were talking, it's literally like I was like, yes, this is exactly what I believe in as well. You've mentioned this idea of, obviously, you don't like shopping, which is perfect because we're never gonna go shopping together, which is a promise. I absolutely love that. You've mentioned this idea of learning and this passion for learning, which in a way, I'm a software engineer by trade, but my growth has really been about taking opportunity and being more of a generalist, to the point where people ask me, are you a business transformation? Are you a tech consultant? Are you an advisor? I'm like, what do you need? And I can help. And it's really, exactly, and it's really hard to explain that to people because we've been so conditioned about being in that narrow land. Now, when I work with startups, I'm like, rather than focusing on the title, let's look at what you need. I'll show you what I've done in the past, and then we'll see whether I'm the right person for you, or I'll find someone else for you. And I'm glad that you've mentioned that. And actually, the other thing that made me actually like jump off my seat, literally, was when you mentioned this idea of building a house. Now, I have an analogy which I've always said, you need to turn your life and your work into a playground. And one of the best way of doing that is thinking about yourself as a house that you haven't finished building. And in fact, my surname, Makangu, in my dad's language actually means a house that you haven't finished building. And I always have a picture in one of my slides where I train other people on development, where I put a house with different bricks. So when you talk about bricks, and I thought, that's exactly it. You get it. It's really about knowing that you have many floors, and some floors might be well polished, others might be not. But the house that you have still has a lot of value that you can serve so many people out there because they need you.
Oh
so I just want to say thank you for this.
I love this analogy. Oh my goodness, really, really, really love that. So thank you for sharing that, Nelly. Oh my God.
Yeah. And in the meantime, let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.